Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bike. Today's guest is someone who represents all that Synergy is: grit, growth, and exactly who you're meant to be. Today's guest is Carly. She's been a part of Synergy for a little over 5 years now. She walked in 2019 after just moving to Charleston, had no friends, had no community, and had no idea what the next chapter of her life would look like. What Carly didn't expect was walking into Synergy and that being a doorway into the next chapter of her life. She's still riding with us today. She's taken on more jobs, and she is exactly what Synergy is all about. I cannot wait for you to listen to Carly's story. So with that, let's jump in. Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bike. This week, I am so excited to introduce you to Carly. Carly has been a part of our Charleston community for quite some time. Carly, why don't you say hi?
Hi, everybody. Coming from Charleston, West Virginia, my basement.
They have to come and see you in person and not on the podcast sometime soon, right? All right. Listen, we have so much to go through today. I feel like you've been a part of Synergy since day one. But it's been like 5 years now, right?
About a little over 5 years.
Which takes us back to COVID. And I feel like I talk about COVID on almost all of these podcasts, but it was such an instrumental time in everybody's life. And I think everybody's like, oh yeah, I know what I was doing. I know where I was at. So before we get into Synergy and how you found it and what you do now with Synergy, why don't you talk to me about 2020? Because in our conversations, you told me that you moved to Charleston, the surrounding area during that time. So why don't you just give us a little intro and let's go back and then we'll work forward.
Sure. So I'm originally from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and I moved to Charleston in 2019, November 2019. So world is still normal at this point. I moved from transitioning out of clinical dental hygiene to becoming a researcher in dental hygiene. Transitioning here, very flexible grant-funded job. And in March of 2020, of course, everything switched. So we went from, seeing patients in real life to me working from home, doing what I could with my job. Unfortunately, I still had one, but like everybody else, I was very secluded. And I moved here without any friends. I moved here for this job and for a relationship. And then, the job it didn't cease to exist, but it wasn't what it was.
Yeah.
So I was really in this new place where I didn't have my people anymore. All my friends were in Parkersburg still, or they had moved on to other areas. So I came here thinking I was going to start something that ended up not coming to fruition. And then at that time, eventually I did lose that job because grant funding funds went elsewhere, of course. So it was a wild time to move to this area.
Yeah. So talk to me about Parkersburg because it's a small town. So what was it like growing up there in Parkersburg?
Parkersburg was great. I have wonderful friends and family that I still talk to every day. You still have that group chat with those friends. Smaller town, but not like the smallest town in West Virginia, right? So it's one of the more, I would say, metropolitan areas, if you will. Like my graduating class was 400 or so. So that's more than a lot of areas where some
Yeah, I mean, that's actually not that small.
No. I came from Vienna, West Virginia, which is, just like a borough of Parkersburg, if you will. It was a great area, but I wanted to go somewhere bigger that had a little bit more opportunity. Now, if you're from Charleston, you think there is. That's how it is for every place, I think. You're in your hometown, you're like, there's nothing here. But
Yeah.
home is what you make it.
Yeah.
So,
Now, when growing up in Parkersburg, did you come to Charleston often or?
yeah, Charleston was the spot.
That was your big city adventure.
Came here to go shopping, right? I was telling someone the other day, I wanted to hit up Macy's, Abercrombie, all the cool stores that we
Yeah. Yeah. So even though you moved to Charleston, um, you had been there before. It wasn't brand new, but you didn't know anybody here or there, right? So talk to me. So what was it like? You moved there in 2019. What was it like building this new life for yourself, not knowing anybody?
So it kind of didn't seem like I was really building a life, if that makes sense. So I came here, I moved into like a 2-bedroom apartment, lived there by myself, and, went to work, came home, went to work, came home, hung out with my boyfriend. came home. Like, I really didn't it just felt like I was going through motions and I was like, "Is this really what life is?" And I felt very stuck, but never really vocalized that because I still talk to my friends a lot and I had things to keep me somewhat busy, I was decorating my apartment and all that jazz, visiting friends on the weekend when I could, but, always felt like sort of something was missing. Like, where was my core group of people that I used to have at home, the people who I would go out to dinner with on the weekends or whatever? It didn't really feel like I was building a life. It just felt like I was existing.
So like how did that make you feel that you didn't have that? Because it sounds like you were kind of just waking up every day doing the same thing, going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. I mean, what was that doing inside for you?
It's like anybody who feels stuck, and I'll preach about this, like, in my classes and just to my friends in general, like, I'm that hype person. You don't ever wanna feel like that. You If you're looking at your life and you're saying, "This isn't how I wanna live," or "I'm not feeling inspired, I'm not feeling like I'm evolving," it doesn't feel good, and that's how I felt, I just felt like I came for this new opportunity thinking it was sort of going to change my life, and it did. It opened a lot of doors for me in my professional life, but it didn't really feel complete, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's like you're going through a transition externally and internally, and not just one transition, but like a lot of transitions at the same time.
And I really internalize things a lot of the time. So, like, you're gonna get this version of me that's like this, and inside I'm kinda like, What am I doing? What's going on?" And I always end up trying to work it out in my own way, but in a place where I didn't have, like, a strong present physical community, it was kind of hard to get through.
Sure.
And in Parkersburg, my mom still lived in Parkersburg, my grandmother still lived in Parkersburg, and she was not doing well. So I felt like kind of stuck between should I keep going home? I have even left. And then COVID happened, so I couldn't keep going
Right.
home.
Right. So obviously you're still in Charleston today. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about Charleston? Because people who aren't from there or live there, it's such a unique, beautiful city, and the people are just so incredible. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about Charleston just in general?
I absolutely love Charleston. So it's not the Charleston that I knew as a child, right? Because nothing is ever what you know it as a child. But
Tell me about that. Like what do you like places have come and gone, or like what do you mean by that?
because it's not a big city to me anymore.
Yeah.
To me, it's home. So when my
Yeah.
friends from out of town come here, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't drive downtown." I'm like, "Okay, well, you can, or I can drive and we can park in the Summer Street garage and it's literally so easy to walk everywhere."
Right.
Hey, I got you. Like you go somewhere as a child and you're like, "Oh my god, this huge city," right? Like getting on the Oakwood exit to go to Southridge. All I ever heard about it before I moved here was like, "You never want to go up there. It's so busy." And now that I'm there, well, now we have a shortcut to get to it from my house.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, it's nothing like you think it is. Nothing is ever as big of a deal as you really think it is. Like, nothing is ever that deep, right? But I love Charleston. So I came here and there's so much opportunity. And if you are from here, you don't think there's a lot of opportunity. Like I said before, everybody is that way about their hometown. But there's always some type of show going on. Nate Bargatze was just here on Sunday, and the
Really?
whole city was
Wow.
I mean, it was incredible. But it is what you make of it. So you have to, like, go to the events that happen. There's always different festivals, there's always outdoor events, indoor events, there's always live music, there's always so much good food here and a diverse food. And on top of that, there's a lot of shopping and generally speaking, the shopping world has changed some, but I like to go thrifting. I like to go to estate sales and antique stores. So there's tons of that around here.
Yeah.
I live in South Charleston, so there's lots of little local shops and places to eat that are really nice. I live in a safe neighborhood. It's the state capital, so there's tons
Yeah.
of good stuff going on, and you can
You
always find
know,
something to do if you want.
speaking of events, we're recording this during Thanksgiving week, and this is going to be the first year I can go to Holly Jolly Brawley.
Gosh, I think we're planning, a staff thing, so we're
All right, I'm
Friday or
coming.
Saturday, I'll let you know a day.
I'm coming. Message me. Yeah, I'm really excited. I always miss it every year. So no, I love when people share what Charleston is because it is such a small town. You know, I think you really have to understand that to understand the way we do business, the way we run Synergy, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, and the way we live life. Because, I think Jennifer Gardner says it the best. She always says like you grew up and you could go to your neighbor and just walk through the back door and grab something from the kitchen. Like that's how people are around Charleston.
And again, you come from again, Parkersburg isn't necessarily small, but you come from that town and you think it's a small town, and then you come here and I'm thinking it's this huge I'm never gonna know anybody. I don't know anybody. The way I go anywhere and know somebody at every place now,
Yeah.
because it's never as small as you think it is. Like, and
Yeah.
there's always ways to build connections if you try to immerse yourself in any type of community.
Yeah.
The whole city community too, like that's part of it, is going to the things that are offered and making sure you're taking full advantage of all the opportunities that are here, because there's a lot. You just
I
have
couldn't
to like
agree.
leave your house.
I couldn't agree more.
Get off your phone.
So you're in Charleston. You move there 2019. March 2020 comes around. We all know what happens then. And you lose your grant funded job, correct?
I didn't lose it then. We held on as
Okay.
long as we possibly could. So we actually held on for about a year. Um, I started, which we'll talk about. I started writing in August of 2020. But I held on to
Yeah.
that.
So talk to me about that because there was so much happening for you in this wild time. When did Synergy come into play? How did Synergy come into play? Like, explain all of this to me. I don't even know if I know this.
So it's quite funny because I didn't know anybody. I knew people here, but not like on a level that we would hang out. You know what I mean? Like just the way I know people from Morgantown, but I don't know anyone in Morgantown, right?
Sure.
So, Amanda Jones, actually, she used to be an instructor. She also used to be my boss at the job I have now. Just randomly, out of nowhere, I've never exercised. I've never done anything like consistently. I've done like P90X occasionally, and that was it.
Sure.
She was like, "Hey, why don't you come to like a spin class with me?" And she was really trying to get a lot of people to come at the time. And I said, "It was a 5:45 a.m. class." I no showed her. She was
You
like,
didn't show up for your first class?
I did not. She was like,
Wow.
"Listen, you, like, can't really do that, like, I have to pay to do this." So I was like, "Okay." So I felt very guilty. I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll come to this next one." Never woken up at 5 AM to go work out, that's crazy. But I went, and I had, like, such an amazing time, and I was like, "Okay, this is pretty fun." And also for the first time, somebody other than my boyfriend had invited me to go do something in Charleston, and I was like,
Sure.
okay, I have a friend now. So that was our connection point. And dental hygiene was our connection point too. But like, you don't really do that outside of work. So I started to come a little bit more frequently. I can't really remember when I dived into getting a membership, but it wasn't too long after I got a membership that we closed again. So she brought me, I no showed my first class, and then it just stuck.
The rest is history.
It took me like 3 classes to be like, all right, this is actually pretty fun. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
into it.
So when was this? This was like fall of 2020?
Yeah, my first class was in August, so, I probably only came a couple times in August before I really but also, I'm the type of person that once I like something, I'm, like, in it. So, I probably, was a member by the end of September.
I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. What was that first class experience like? Not the one that you no showed, but the real first class experience.
So I'm a very like music person. I've always, anytime I'm doing chores or whatever, music is always the thing that I've used to feel and the thing to get me through. So what I really liked was that it was musical. I wasn't just listening to somebody tell me what to do. I've done like boot camps and stuff where there's no music or there's
Yeah.
just kind of like music barely playing in the background. But I really liked that this was music driven and that nobody was talking the entire time. And I could really just focus on vibing by myself more or less. I remember I was sitting over here on this left side of the room away from the middle of all the people. Um, and the vibes were just good. Even at, early in the morning, the vibes were good. Everybody was not as tired as I was. Everybody was happy to see me. So it was different than and I hadn't done really any other workouts with a group other than a boot camp, but it's still different than any other cycling class I've ever been to. And, I left there feeling like, okay, I could kind of keep up. I could kind of see myself doing this. And everybody in there was so kind and so wonderful that it already felt like a community that first time I was in there.
So you go from moving to Charleston, knowing nobody, to now being a part in a little less than a year, now being a part of Synergy, where now you're like, people see me. I'm doing something that's not with my boyfriend. And I mean, what did that do for you internally?
I feel like that's where I really started to change internally because I've always very much relied on like other people to kind of give me that self-worth, or I've tried to prove myself in certain ways, whether it's with grades or accomplishments. And I just felt like people were excited to see me just to be different than my friends, different than the people that I had grown up with. And that's really all I had ever hung out with.
Was that the first time in your life that you felt that?
I would say so.
Yeah. And what do you know why? Like what made that happen?
I feel like it's hard to explain because it's one of those things where, and I'm an employee of the business now, so I get when people think it is just like a facade, but knowing who I am in that place, it was just people who are happy to see other people, and it's always nice to do things in a group. So everybody there I could tell, and now I definitely know, were very genuine and happy to see me and interested in what was going on in my life, interested in who I was. I walked in the door and Meg Stollard had a million questions for me. She's like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, who are you? Where are you from? How did you know about this place?" And I was like, "Somebody's interested in who I am as a person." And then it evolved over time, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I ask because we so often talk about community, and it's one of my favorite words. Everybody in this industry says that they're community based. But like, what does that mean? And we're going to talk about, you're now on the other side of it, being an employee with us, and you've been in many roles, which we'll dig into. But like, can you explain maybe a little bit in granular detail, like the aspects that make it community? Because yeah, we do things together, but I feel Zenergy is just the vehicle in which we use for community. Like how do you see it?
And again, so when you walk in a place, you're very hesitant. And I like watch, writers do this too, where they like walk in and they don't really talk to anybody because they don't know what the vibes are. They think nobody's going to talk to them. And I think the thing that makes it different is that you do have those quintessential community leaders who are, the buzzers in the lobby or the buzzers in the studio that will talk to anybody. I could rattle off, five people who are those people and make everybody feel welcome. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is. And I think it is that part is everybody is so comfortable. The staff is very comfortable, and a lot of our writers are so comfortable and so funny in that place. You can tell that they're wholeheartedly themselves.
Yeah.
I have never, other than with my group of friends I grew up with, felt like I could be wholeheartedly myself in a place like I am there. I can, of course, within reason, talk the way I normally do, act silly, act stupid, and everybody, they don't care. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. It's just so comfortable, and everybody there is very comfortable. And I also think that because we've built it to be this way organically, nobody built it that way. It just became that way. Everybody in there would be willing to help each other out. I've built relationships where, if I had an issue with my AC, I could call somebody who goes to the studio, and same thing with my water tank. Like, it's just so interesting how those connections flourish into just not I mean, it's a networking opportunity, but I don't even really think it's like that. It's just people helping people because everybody is happy to be there and everybody is being themselves. I think that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly why I was asking, because I go back to what we were talking about Charleston and what it's like to live in Charleston. And Zenergy in Charleston is obviously the OG studio, and the philosophy of Zenergy was really created and rooted in the Charleston community feeling. And so I asked you that because I go back to an earlier question and conversation we were having a little bit ago about what it's like to live in Charleston. It's Zenergy. I mean, that's what it is, because Zenergy was modeled off of that. Is that fair to say?
Definitely.
That is the vibe. So no, thank you for sharing that. As these internal shifts are happening and you're becoming a writer, and we then close down again for the second time, and then we reopen, were you in it like full steam ahead as soon as we reopen? Like tell me where we were at here, because I want to kind of paint a picture for people who know you and maybe who don't know you.
And what's funny is, like, the people who don't know me, like, know this is my community now. Whenever I first started coming, people I would post stories, tag everybody, da 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 da. And people that I never talked to were like, oh my gosh, continue posting all this stuff. This is so inspiring. Probably because I was never that girl, right? Like I was not a
Sure.
really.
Sure.
So closed down November. I was there for that final ride. Did get COVID. Reopen. I forget when did reopening happen?
It's all a blur to me.
Okay, so reopening's probably sometime in 2021, like the beginning of 2021. I did not come back. So I got a bike at home, started doing that. And there are ways to build a community outside of physical in person. We all learned that during COVID, right? Like you can build a virtual community, which I sort of did and it worked for a while.
So is it fair to say you got the bike at home because you enjoyed Synergy so
Yeah.
much?
Yeah, no, it was like I couldn't live without it. I was like, I need to do something. I found it on Craigslist. They delivered it to my house. I mean, I was so proud of that purchase and so excited. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this at home because I finally found something I was good at, that was
Sure.
fun, that was a good workout.
Sure.
I mean, I never thought I could find all of those good at fun workout. Not me. So bought a bike, didn't come back until um my grandma passed away in April of 2021. And let's go back to where I said I really internalized things, right? Like I didn't want to talk to anybody about that. But I knew the way that I could work through that was on a bike.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't on a bike by myself. So I remember texting Meg and I was like, my grandma died that day. It was like literally that day. And I was like, I'll see you tomorrow. And booked a bike, like came home that night, booked a bike for the next day, and just probably sobbed, for the entire class or whatever,
Yeah.
because that was how I worked through good vibes, bad vibes, or whatever I needed to do. That was how I did it
Yeah.
in the room.
So talk to me if you would like. Obviously, you were very close with your grandmother. Can you talk to me a little bit about her? Did she live in Parkersburg? Like what? Give me, I love grandmas, so I
I
need to
know.
hear about
Well,
this.
I even thought about that before we did this because, like, your grandma is like your with your vibe with yours
Hmm.
is the similar to mine. So we grew up around the corner from her. So I lived
Okay.
on this street. Granny lived on this street. So like we could walk
Same.
around the corner.
Same.
Yeah.
Yep. Same.
So they were like big caretakers. After school, I would walk there, or she would come drive and come get me, even though the school was 2 feet away.
Hmm.
Very immersed in all of the things. So we would go on vacation together. She would spoil me to death. Just very close. And I was like the type of girl that always would argue with my mom and then go talk to my grandma. My mom's great. Nothing wrong
Yeah.
with her, but just one of
You were a
those.
kid. You were a kid.
Yeah, I was just a teenager girl.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was one of the hardest things to move away from Parkersburg, was moving away from her because she was older. And I was like, is this the vibe? Like, is this okay? Should I really be doing this? And then part of me was like, okay, like you do need to eventually branch out and make decisions on your own. But yeah, she's my girl. So losing her was a very, very, very difficult for me because it was like somebody who, and she and my mom both were so happy that I had found like a community in Charleston. They never said that they were worried about me, but they were so happy that, I had that and were desperate to help me find something at home to do whenever the studio closed. They were like, "Oh God, what are we gonna do?" Because I could tell, there's a
Yeah.
shifting happens whenever you start, number one, exercising, but number two, so she was super, super proud of me for like finding something and sticking with something like that, something that
Yeah.
whenever you see those videos, you're like, oh, that looks so hard. How is Carly doing that?
Yeah. She's the proud grandmother.
Yeah,
Yeah. Always will be. I mean, it really sounds like that turning point. You utilize community as your catalyst for like this new chapter. Yeah.
absolutely.
And at that point, you were still writing. You were not working for us yet, correct?
Correct. I started
So,
working in September.
so where, as you come back to the bike the second time in April, you said? April, what was happening internally now? Was there something different between the first time you were coming at Synergy and now?
There was, and let me think of how to describe it. Because I was riding at home too, it's very different, of course, as you know. So I was still doing that at home. I was still riding, and I was, it sounds so crazy to say, but like I was very conflicted. Like, do I fully come back? I was very immersed, and it ended very quickly, or do I stick with this thing that's sort of been working for me? So I was kind of like half in, half out for a while.
Sure.
I came back. I hit my ride, still wasn't fully committed on coming back, and it
Which
was
is crazy because you had done 100 rides.
yeah, oh yeah, your girl was in it. Like
Yeah.
I was riding 3 times a day, like so funny. So funny to look back, and I'll still do that too. To look back on it and be like, how did I go from nothing to that? Right. And it was essentially probably like 2 to 3 months time. But it wasn't until I rode sporadically for a few months, and it wasn't until I saw a front desk opening. And I was like, I'm still a little bored. I've never really had just like one job. I've always been the type of person to have a little bit of a side hustle, and I knew I missed it enough that I thought this might be a good way to get back in it and kind of like make me do it. So I applied for a front desk job, and I mean, I think Meg was so ecstatic. You know, she was like, "Okay, this is the way to get her back," and I mean, it sure was. And then after that, you know, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, when you were saying when you do something, you jump fully in. I mean, there we are. So now you're working for us as a part of the front desk team. What? And now you're there all the time. Like you went from being there all the time to not being there to now being there all the time again and working for us. What was it like being on the other side of the room as the front desk team member?
I think it's one of the best. I mean, number one, it's the best decision I've probably ever made for like my personal growth. Number two, it is the best way to really learn the community because you are, you know, the first person that people see when they walk in, right? So they come in, I know them. They might not necessarily know me yet, but I was always a people watcher. I knew who everybody was sitting in that room. And I think a lot of people are like that. If you know me now, you would never think I was the type of person. I would go in 15 minutes early. I brought my own shoes. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I'd just sit on a bike and stretch for 15 minutes till class started. Working for the company helped me really like flourish as a person because I was like, okay, I know all these people. Now I'm going to be, now I have a reason.
Fully myself. Yeah, I'm gonna,
Yeah. So I wasn't too wild in the beginning.
yeah,
But, you know, it helped me come out of my shell, and I'm not young, okay? So I'm like 29 years old. I'm not like 22. I'm not like just
that's young.
starting. I mean, I know, but you know what I mean. I'm not fresh out of high school. I'm fully a person, but I still didn't feel like I could totally be myself. So I start working and get to know everybody, and everybody gets to know you in that space just by being front desk. You learn everybody's shoe size against your will. You know who comes in early, who comes in late, who never remembers their socks. So it was a really fun way to really immerse myself in the community even deeper. And it helped me, like I said, grow as a person. I was able to feel a lot more comfortable talking to people, even though I did that every day in my dental hygiene job.
Yeah,
It was a different, more even playing field, and I felt like I could be more authentic with people and really, you know, be friendly.
yeah. I mean, there's so much growth happening within the studio for you, also outside of the studio, and so much happening there, which we'll talk about in a second. You had a very interesting journey within Synergy, and there are not many. We have a lot of people that get promoted and things like that, but not very many that have gone up the ladder the way you have. And you start as front desk, and then you become ASM, which is assistant studio manager. How far or how long after you were front desk were you offered the ASM role?
So I was front desk, and then we had a position called studio lead.
Yep,
And that was before we introduced assistant studio manager, or maybe it was
correct.
in other studios and it wasn't in our studio. It was definitely less than a year, probably like 6-ish months, 6 to 8 months when I became studio lead, and then not too long after that where, you know, over the summer, I was pretty much there 24/7, and Meg was like, "Hey, you need to just be paid a little more for doing what you do here." Um, so, you know, essentially was not forced into that, but kind of forced into that
Kind of forced.
just because I was like, "Oh, I don't have the time," but you always make the time for the things that you enjoy because it never really feels like work.
Yeah, and you're getting promoted within Synergy, but then what's happening outside in your external life?
So, we'll go back to my grant-funded job, right? So I started working at Zenergy September 2021. At the exact same time, my grant-funded job is over, and I'm transitioning into a career in academia. So I become a full-time faculty member at the dental hygiene program I'm at now. My boss is the person that brought me to Zenergy in the first place. She really, again, this is where I'm talking like your relationships just happen. And I swear I've had so many opportunities because of the people I've met through this place and the people whose relationships I have formed stronger bonds with because of this place. She really held out for me to be able to have this like faculty position that I have now, which I do still have 4 years later, I think. It's also like you said, it's also
Time flies.
yeah.
I
So
know.
I am transitioning into, again, a whole new version of, I'm going from somebody who cleans teeth to teaching teenagers about this job and about all the things that surround it. Um, at the same time, I also purchased my first home that I currently live in. Uh, so I'm going through like so many very, very seemingly adult things.
Huge life milestones and
Like,
moments.
buying a house, scary. Becoming a professor, insane. Like, I can't believe that is still what I do because it seems like a very adult thing that I don't feel like I'm an adult at 34, but it was very adult. So these are like very adult things that are happening. And I'm just like, whose body am I living in right now? And I was, like, very hesitant when I started in September 21 to work at Zenergy, 'cause I was like, "I'm doing a lot right now, I'm about to have to move my whole house."
Sure.
But I was like, "If I don't take this opportunity now, I don't know when it will come again, and I know I really liked these people in this place, so I'm gonna do it." So that was that. I'm going through a lot of changes because, I start that job in September, start my teaching job in September, buy this house in September, and then moving through all the transitions with all of that within that first year. I mean, that was probably one of the most challenging years in my adult life because I'm learning a lot
It's
of
coming at you like torpedo speed, it sounds like.
right. Right. So I get the keys to this house. There's like a leaky ceiling within 2 months of me living here and I'm like, "Oh no, this is like so adult. This is crazy." And you internalize all these meltdowns. I'm like, "I just need to go book a bike. Like, girl, chill out. It's not that deep." So about a year later, become assistant manager and I'm starting to get a little bit more confident with my current job that I have now. Like everything else, more time is really what it takes to feel confidence and grow within any element of your life. And, throughout that experience, I am on, like we said, this other side of Zenergy, and I'm watching all of the people growing within their roles, so growing as instructors and things like that. And I'm like riding, working, thinking, man, I hope one day I can be that good, whatever. And it really stays back in my mind, and it wasn't something I even really thought I'd ever want to do which, here we are. But, I just I settled into all of my roles for a while before I itched to do anything different because I was really just trying to figure it out and really trying to find stability because, like I said before, I go all in, but I also don't want to be not good at anything.
Sure.
So I really wanted to grow within the elements that I had gone into, and I wanted to be good at that before I decided to try to change anything in my life. I was still some internal turmoil at home and, the things that grounded me and the things that strengthened me. Again, it all goes back to that community, like good mood, bad mood, anything I needed to do. That's where I went.
Yeah. I mean, so much, kind of like I said a few moments ago, so much transition, moving at torpedo speed. And it's like trying to dodge and jump in at the same time is like mentally a lot to process. The thing I admire about you is that when you do something, you give it everything that you have. And you kind of just hinted at it, but for those that don't know, Carly is now also an instructor, just recently celebrated a year, right? Or
Mhm.
recently, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, July.
Recently celebrated a year. So you have now gone from writer, non-writer, writer again, front desk, studio lead, ASM, instructor. Holy cow. Holy cow.
And it's so crazy because, like I said, I didn't play sports in high school. Like, it wasn't anything. I'm like, if you'd asked me 5 years ago if I'd ever be a like fitness instructor, like, yeah, right.
Yeah. So talk to me about you're still the ASM. Talk to me as well. Talk to me about becoming an instructor. You said that like you had always seen these instructors. You're like, wow, one day I hope I could be that good, which I understand that comment, but you've always been that good, right? Nothing's changed. But like what inspired you to be an instructor and um what was that process like for you?
So I will tell you, and this is something that I try to do with riders now, is there is those moments where, you're having a real good ride and you're because it's rhythm based. So if you don't know anything about Zenergy, it's rhythm based cycling, right? We're riding to the beat of the music. And again, that was like the coolest part about it to me is that like not only were you immersed in the music, but you're like vibing with the music, right? So you know exactly what I'm talking about when you have one of those classes where it just feels right and looks good. And I remember very specifically a few different times where people like Sarah Brooks or Dave Phillips would reach out to me and be like, "You are really killing it. It's really inspiring to ride in a room with you." And so those are those moments that I'm like, okay. And being on staff, I got to watch instructors train. I wasn't involved in the training process at the time, but I got to watch them grow from, even during training to their community rides to who they are now or who they were. Um, and it was just such a cool thing to watch. And I wanted to do it and I wanted to do it, but again, I am very, what's the word? I am very intentional when I do things that I can give them, like you said, my full capacity. So I knew as I was transitioning into this teaching job, I'm not ready to do it because I can't give my all to both simultaneously. Something's going to
Sure.
I was in grad school too at the time. I didn't say that. I started grad school when I started my teaching job. So I was like, I can't do all of this at the same time. So I waited. I did, a methodical waiting period where I essentially was trying to train myself to be an instructor without anybody knowing, right? I would ride on certain bikes and ride on my right foot. And then one day, Meg was just like, "So I guess it's about time we make you an instructor." I was like, "Okay, soon."
Yeah.
But
What's your
it was those people that said they were giving me the go ahead to keep going without even knowing I was trying to go for something.
They were
And
giving you permission to be yourself.
yeah, and it was very important for me to be good and that little, you got this thing that people like to give in that area. Oh, it just gave me a thumbs.
A little thumbs up.
Was a way of me knowing that I was okay. Not only am I a part of this community, but I'm somebody that people are actually looking to and looking at. And that motivated me to keep trying and keep going and work harder, even if on those days I didn't feel like doing it myself. Because I
Yeah.
was there on the bad days too.
Yeah. So you've been doing the instructing side of things for about a year. What would you say is your favorite part about teaching?
Jeez. It is I mean, it's being in that room and watching the community. It is like there is nothing like looking at a group of riders, whether it's 3 or the whole room is full, and seeing everybody move at the same rhythm and seeing everybody connect in such a way. It is so inspiring, and I do feel like I am strong in that community grounding that people will ask me questions and people will lean on me as riders or whoever is coming into that place, employees as well, because of community vibe that I've tried to reciprocate. I mean, there's just nothing like it. I love teaching so much, and I think it was I had reached out to you after what I thought was a bad class, and I was like, "I hated that. That felt so bad." And you were like, "Nobody left feeling worse than they came in feeling." You were like, "I promise you that." It was funny because later that evening, somebody had told me it was like their favorite class they had ever
Yeah,
read.
it happens every time. It's we kind of going back to what you were saying about internalizing things like that. I feel like most instructors do. And yeah, what would you say has changed you the most, or what parts of yourself have grown the most by being at Zenergy, whether that be a rider, front desk, ASM, instructor? Like, what parts have changed about you?
For me, I walked into that place very not self-assured, unassured is not the word, very not self-assured about who I was and who I wanted to become. And it is one of those things that just happens without you knowing it, right? It is not necessarily the bike, and I don't know how to describe it, but I have become so much more confident and more self-aware of what I want. And I tell my classes all the time, like, my hardest decisions haven't been made in that room, right? I came to Charleston in a relationship with a certain job, neither of which I have now. And it was that room that gave me that, mental strength, that emotional strength to make the significant changes in my life And a lot of times, and I'm sure you know, as instructors, we feel like we're preaching certain things or saying certain things that might not seem like anybody's really gripping onto it. But I speak from experience when I say they are, and you are changing people. And I think that's what's changed for me is I've become so much more emotionally aware, so much more powerful in my own thoughts and decisions that I am comfortable voicing my opinion. I'm comfortable changing my life now that I wouldn't have been 5 years ago. Like, I definitely wouldn't have been 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. 5 years feels like a lifetime at this
Absolutely.
point.
It's like a lifetime ago.
So speaking of 5 years, if you could sit with the Carly that was in 2019/2020, scary, I know, right? No friends, no community, or no friends in Charleston, no community. I don't want to say no friends at all. No friends in Charleston, no community, and everything's starting to shift. What would you tell that Carly?
It's really funny because I talked about this the other day in class too. This is where I reach inspiration from, right?
I love that.
Is my past self and who she was and who I still want to be. I would tell her, you got to be kidding me. This is where you're at now. And like, you now feel like that the sky is the limit, because back then I would have just settled. You know what I mean? I did settle for a very long time in a lot of aspects of my life. And I would tell her now that all those decisions are so important to make. All those leaps of faith are so important to take. And becoming part of something bigger is your purpose. Talking to people that you don't know and giving yourself a little bit of room to grow and room to build a community and build friendships. We see people with like at all different ages, and I have friends in all circles now because of it. So just taking that chance, and you literally never know what might happen. Like I said, it's created so many different holes of opportunity for me that I would not have otherwise had. I don't know what I would be doing for my regular career had I not ever gone to Zenergy. And again, I don't think I'd still have friends here if I didn't. These are my people now. I mean, maybe I would. I do have friends, I guess, but like nothing like this. Nothing like people that would go pick me up on the side of the road.
Yeah, that's Charleston. That's Charleston for you.
It is.
You know, people are going to listen and or watch this podcast from all over the place. Many from Charleston, obviously, many from so many other places. And while so many people know you, so many people don't, and now they know a little bit more about you. What would be your final message for anybody listening or watching this podcast?
Don't be scared to take the opportunity to try something new. We recently unveiled a new class type in Charleston, and it seems so scary, right? Any decision you make, anything you do that seems different seems absolutely terrifying. Walking into a boutique fitness studio by yourself seems so scary because you're going to walk in there, you're going to maybe not know anybody, and you're going to feel like you don't belong. But it is so important that you know when you walk, at least into Zenergy Charleston, you are walking into a place where that person behind the counter is being 100% themselves. And by doing that, they are giving you permission to do the same. I want everybody to feel that in my presence. That's the point for me. The point for me is to be a source of comfort to people in that way. And that doesn't mean I'm going to come up and hug you or anything like that, because not everybody likes to be touched. But I want them to be so comfortable that they choose to be themselves in that space. And I hope that's the kind of community that I have helped create. And I hope that type of community continues. That's all I've wanted. And that's how I felt when I walked in. So I want to carry that out.
Well, I can tell you from someone that's been in your presence many, many times, I 100% feel that around you. And I am so grateful for you. I know the community is so grateful for you. And listen, friends, if you're listening to this podcast, watching, you got to go check Carly's class out. She teaches at the OG studio. We'll get you to some of the other studios riding with us. That's one of these points. I got to get you in Morgantown, like taking a class and riding together. Let's do it.
I know. Listen, it's about to be Christmas break.
I know. Well, all right, let's keep the combo going. Let's keep the combo going. Friends, thank you so much for listening to another podcast episode. Carly, it is always a pleasure to chat with you. One of my favorite things is I could literally just talk to our employees, and especially people like you that I feel so close with for hours. So I appreciate you sharing your story. And friends, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody. See ya.